Hello everyone, my name is Joan Sebastián Arenas Hernández. I'm from Bucaramanga and I'm in the master's degree program in mediation learning, pedagogical mediation learning. I'm part of the ESEDU school. I'm from SCORI. Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you about my project, which is called the use of literature as a mediation tool to increase EFL vocabulary knowledge in students at Santo Tomas University in Bucaramanga. Well, specifically in Florida Blanca. Okay, so let's see the context of the project. Basically, the project was done at Santo Tomas University. It was to implement some strategies to improve students' vocabulary using literature, books, and everything. And some of the students here are not, they don't have the level that they're supposed to. So I wanted to do something different because I realized that they lacked a lot of vocabulary, right? And this doesn't allow them to communicate in a very good way or comprehend English. Okay. Some students can do good, some others not that good. So I wanted to see if this one was a good idea or not. Okay. Vocabulary acquisition is crucial from the classroom and real life communication. This was very important because um, literature is real context, it's real language. It's not used like in textbooks, English textbooks that they use like, for example, they are teaching you past tense and they do an activity with past tense. And here is real vocabulary. It combines past tense with present with different vocabulary. Okay, it's not like in a specific one. And literally takes aid avoid vocabulary acquisition and overall language development. That's the most important thing. So that was the context of this research. Okay, of course, these students were from Santo Tomas from fifth semester. At the beginning, I didn't know what program because I could have any program actually. So I did it with the international business students who actually they need to have a B2 level at the end of their programs. So in that way, they take the subject every day 2 hours. Okay. So what's the general question is to what extent does literature increase EFL vocabulary learning among students at Santo Tomas University in Florida Blanca? And the specific questions for this was to what extent do students feel interested in the readings the teacher brings to the class by participating and doing the activities? To what extent does the new vocabulary help students to improve their English holistically? To what extent do the students use the authentic vocabulary acquired from the books? Okay. The general objective that I have this here it was to analyze to what extent literature increases EFL vocabulary learning among students at Santo Tomas University in Florida Blanca through different readings and class activities. Okay, so what's first the general objective? The objective one is to investigate the correlation between exposure to literature and the expansion of English as a foreign language vocabulary among students at Santo Tomas University. How much this correlates, okay, the literature and the expansion of English vocabulary. To assess the students with existing vocabulary using a pretest and then with the new vocabulary with a post-test. So how much do they improve? How much this could help them to improve English. And finally, to explore the relationship between students' engagement with literary texts. It means with reading comprehension, critical analysis, discussion participation under EFL vocabulary acquisition and retention at Santo Tomas University in Florida Blanca. Okay, the conceptual framework is very interesting as well because here we have different definitions. The main that I have is literature, of course. Literature in this research is aimed to talk about literary pieces. For example, poems, tales, and so on and so forth. So I encounter a different information about this and how this is important for not only for English but also for humanity. Okay, the literature for education. Okay, the second one was vocabulary knowledge. Is how much a student can enhance vocabulary. The third one is mediation and language learning. This was very important because our master's degree is about this mediation, helping our students, guide them in every step they take. So in here, it was important to guide them, to guide during this process and during this learning activity. Then we have reading comprehension in L2, which, although it's not the main thing, it's important that as they are going to read, they were going to read tales and they were going to read poems and something, different aspects, different tale, different literary pieces. It was important that they had a very good comprehension, reading comprehension. Then we have reading literature in EFL class. Here we narrow it a little bit, and it was the importance of taking literature to class, right? Not staying with the same old-fashioned trends or the same old-fashioned didactics, but giving them different things and different readings that may be interesting for them. Then, vocabulary learning strategies and methods. This one was on a strategy. What strategy do I use? Yeah, what aspects or what activities I use to enhance vocabulary? Okay. Now, okay. All right. So we're going to talk about the research design of my project. Okay, this was an action research. It means that I was in the center, or not the center. The center were the students, but I was there with them. I was in the field. I was working together with them. I was watching them improving. I was watching them frustrating. I was watching them maybe doing the activities, right? So this is an action research. I was inside. And the mixed method approach was important because I use quantitative and qualitative data collection. So for the quantitative was the pretest because I used a questionnaire, I used an exam, a pretest, and a post-test. I also use a quantitative approach. Okay, the sampling procedures or the procedure that I used was the purposeful sampling technique, which is actually focusing on a specific group and saying, okay, this one is going to be the group that I need. In that case, I needed students from Santo Tomas who were who were in fifth semester. It doesn't matter the program; it was in fifth semester. Journal was also part of the qualitative part of the qualitative collection instrument to record what I observed. Focal interview was also a qualitative part, and the population, as I told you before, was Santo Tomas International Business students in fifth semester. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the data analysis. In this part, it was to collect all the data and then analyze it using categorization through different variables. So let's see what were the variables that I encountered. But first, we're going to talk about the pretest results. In here, we can see this diagram where we can see the results of this pretest. So in this pretest, only 80 students were part of it. Some others started, but they drop off, or some others were not committed, or some others were late. But it was only like two or three because my group was not very big. So in this case, in the pretest, they had 10 questions. The majority of them, 4 out of 8, had six out of 10 questions correctly. The rest have 4. The rest 3. Some had 10, 9, and 8, but the majority were in the middle, 6 out of 10. Now in the post-test, we can see an improvement, right? Again, the same 8 out of 10 students, 5 of them obtain 24 out of 25 questions correctly. Only one have 25 out of 25, and only 2 have less than 24. So this one's a very important improvement in the students because most of them, could had a very high level, right? And none of them had any low level. Actually, none of them had a score less than 21. Now, observation and journals were also important to gather information. All right, in this case, I use an agenda and then I collect information and then I put it into a Word document. In here, we have the example of the journal. In the pretest, I wrote what happened during that pretest and then after the implementations, and so on and so forth. I had to write specifically what happened at what time and all the analysis. So let's see what I wrote. What I wrote was the following. Okay, so the first thing I wrote was the moment when the students arrived, then the pre-reading activity, how they felt, what they did, and so on and so forth. The reading the literary pieces, how they how they read the literary pieces. Sorry, um, what were their attitudes toward it? What were their pronunciation, their interest in the activities, in the reading? Sorry. Then we have the post-reading activity. We want this one was while the students were doing the workshops, how they felt. The students finished activity. This was after all these things, after the implementations, after posters. How did they feel? How did they feel? How they did, and so on and so forth. Now, we are going to talk about here the evidence of the variables or the categories. In my case, I call them variables, right? So in this case, I use usefulness. Okay, the first variable was usefulness. Usefulness here was after the implementation actually, and was due to the answers of the students. So in here you can see that most of them talk about how useful it was to learn vocabulary, to improve their English and to improve their speaking. Next one was associating word with images. Okay, so this one was very important, and it was either sorry in the pre-test, during the interventions, and in the post-test. It was very clear because that was the most the variable I used the most. So for example, in here we had 80 students that participated in the pre-test. Those 80 students had 3 out of 5 correct, and after the implementations, it means in the post-test, they had 5 out of 5. So there was a improvement. And actually, that can see. Sorry, actually, this was the one that was most prominent, right? The students um, like could understand the words better using images. Then we had the using the words in sentences. This one is very simple. The students had only to use the words in sentences and making sense. This one, simplicity, also was a variable. How simple these tests were, how simple the activities were not difficult, they were not stressing out for this. So, for example, in the first part, we have the word harmonious after reading, and this is the pretest. After reading a story, they had to answer some questions about the vocabulary. In this case, we had harmonious, which is very similar to Spanish. And then in the answers, we have 3 negative and 1 option that has 2 positive. So in this case, it was a matter of thinking, a matter of maybe making a little bit sense, but that was very simple. And then the next one, it was the same. We had profound, was very similar word to Spanish, and again we have antonyms as the rest of the answers. Okay, the conclusions. Okay, so we have first, of course, we had a vocabulary improvement in students. That was the most important part. It was that I expected that the students could enhance and to improve their vocabulary. This one, although this was not inside a variable, this was something that was extra, and it was the motivation. The majority of the students talk about the motivation that they had because they were different, okay, and they participate like they were excited and they were into the project and the interventions. The vocabulary and literature, these two must be together all the time. Okay, there is a huge relationship between this because it helps, it engage, it enhances more vocabulary and EFL um, EFL improvement, right, in speaking and reading and writing and so on and so forth. And some activities were more efficient than others. That's true, right? Some others were easier for them. Okay, some of the limitations that I have is limited familiarity with the target group because I didn't know them very well. Time constraints, that's also important because there was not enough time due to different activities that we had, due to holidays and so on and so forth. Disruption of the continuity. Sometimes I couldn't do the implementations in a row. I had to stop 1 week because they had exam, because they had project, because they have different things, and I had to leave these apart because for them it was more important, let's say, the academic part. Voluntary student dropout during implementation, that was something that happened at the beginning. I had some students who were signing the consent format and actually they did the pretest, but then in the middle they drop out. Increased workload, I had to work a little bit more, of course, because I had to do different things, I had to prepare different things, and that was that was tough. Technological limitations. Santo Tomas is a very good university, but still they don't have the proper technological gadgets, let's say, to have a very comfortable implementation with different platforms. And little understanding from the students. At the beginning it was difficult because the students couldn't understand the topics, couldn't understand the readings, or couldn't understand the implementations per se, because that was something that was first, all right, in their lives. Okay, so basically that is all. I hope that this project can help UNAT students, UNAT teachers, to improve their teaching practices and to see that learning a language is not only about grammar, it's not only about textbooks, it can go beyond. Also, it's important that this could help my students' educational settings, and of course, it helped me as a person and as a researcher and as a teacher to improve my duties. Okay, so thank you very much.